So how do you assess the effectiveness of a curriculum?
The effectiveness of a curriculum, it includes many components. The beginning is just looking at what type of curriculum that you're dealing with, whether it's American curriculum or British curriculum or Indian curriculum. You want to make sure, especially that your teachers know what the standards are and what the objectives are that you want the students to know. So what I always suggest is that you start backwards and work your way forward. So what's the end outcome? So after you finish this lesson or the unit or the end of the semester, what do you want your students to know? And from there, work your way backwards. How are you going to get them to know this? Then what activities are you going to get them to do? Then what's going to be the assessment? So if you work backwards, it's a whole lot easier than saying, okay, my students will know what a noun or a pronoun is in a sentence. Okay, but how? So once you figure out the how, the actual implication is so much easier.
And since you have seen curriculum of different countries and you have designed for them, what do you think is most effective, or what do you think children learn most from?
I think children learn more from, the curriculum doesn't matter. What matters is the process that you're going through, and that you have varied instruction so that you present it in several different ways. I know the British curriculum, it's a lot easier to work with in a sense because it's already ready-made. So it's not much for a teacher to do. And one of the things that I found working internationally is that you have a lot of teachers that don't necessarily have a teaching license. They haven't went to school. They don't have pedagogy. So it's kind of like, they're just thrown in the profession. Maybe it's like some moms and their kids are all in school, so they like the schedule of being off during the summer. So it's like, oh, I'll be a teacher. Yeah. But it's a difficult profession because you don't find very many doctors that are able to do that. If you don't have formal training, you can't say, oh, I'm going to do heart surgery tomorrow. Like, it doesn't really work like that. So that's kind of the unique thing about teaching. It can be used in a great way because you have so many people with diverse backgrounds. I've known people that have been engineers, IT specialists, people that have worked in the military and had army professions, and they transition into teaching. So they have a different perspective that they can bring into it. But the problem is when it comes to curriculum, they're not sure how to take what's on paper and put it in real life. Or they're not sure how to take their knowledge and communicate it to a small mind. They can explain it to us as adults, and they can use technical terms and content terms, and we'll understand it. Maybe not inclusively, but we can take context clues and break down what a word means. But if you're dealing with a kid in like first, second, third, or fourth grade, they don't have a foundation to break down a word. They barely know what a compound word is, so it's difficult for someone who doesn't have the training to be able to do that. So when you're looking at different curriculums, British curriculum, it's already ready-made. So it's literally kind of open a book, look and see what's there. A lot of resources are already pre-made and ready to go, versus American curriculum. It's so diverse. You have the standards, but we don't care how a student learns a noun or pronoun as long as they learn it. So it can be great for a creative teacher that says, oh, wow, so we're going to play this game and we're going to do this activity and we're going to try this experiment, and then the kids will know. But if you have a new teacher that doesn't have any background in teaching, then it's difficult because they don't know how to teach you what a noun or pronoun is. They don't know to start with a person, place, or thing and then give you different examples, real life examples. So they can say, you're a person, you're interviewing me. The camera is a thing. This is a noun. They don't really know how to transpose that in a way where students can understand it. So it has a lot to do with the curriculum design, because you have to design it based on who's implementing it. And if you have beginning teachers, then it definitely needs to be more detailed, have more resources, more information. Versus if you're dealing with veteran teachers or creative teachers, you don't have to give them much, just the bones of what the objectives are, and they can take off and do it on their own. So it's positive and negatives. That's the great thing about teaching. It's so diverse. You can do it any way that you want, but at the same time, if you don't have the support needed for the teachers, it can just be an absolute disaster.
Do you interact with kids?
I do. Yeah, when I'm designing the curriculum, that's one of the things. First, I love the kids. Like, I love going in the classroom. I love seeing them learn. I love seeing them play. So That's the positive. But then I also need to see how the curriculum is working, because maybe I look at something and I have an idea in my head. But working with international schools, it's very difficult when you're dealing with one, second language learners, and then two, you have to look at the type of kid that you're dealing with. So what does their culture allow? So working in the Middle East, of course, you have a strong Islamic culture and you have a strong local culture dealing with Emiratis in the UAE. So I want to include that into the curriculum. But if you're looking at an American curriculum school, one of the things that we teach in high school, just common knowledge, is Romeo and Juliet. That's just a die-hard story. Everybody knows it. But we can't teach Romeo and Juliet because it's a love story and they don't really get married or anything like that. And so that's kind of going against Islam. So I have to find something to teach the skill of being able to analyze a story or analyze characters and what's the relationship in Romeo and Juliet, but use another story that can teach the same content. So it does help when I know the students and I know the base that I'm dealing with. So one, I can kind of figure out their skill level. Okay, the English is a little bit better here or it's a little bit worse. So then I can provide support for them. But if you're just doing something in general, it might not fit your audience. So definitely having that balance between being able to go in the classroom, I see how it's working with the students and I see how it's working with the teacher. If she has the knowledge to be able to implement it properly, then that helps me go back and figure out,